And welcome back into Open Line. I'm Chuck Long. Glad to be along with you for this hour, along with one of our favorite guests. Of course, we're talking about Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm. A lot of you online with us with those questions, those legal questions. If you are just tuning in, make sure if you have one of those legal questions, just give us a call. I know it's gonna help you. You're gonna learn a lot. It's one of those things too. We just found, one of our viewers just had a question, and she really needed a second opinion from opinion from Kevin Kennedy, and that was the way to go. So, Kevin, we are going right back to the phones right now. Don is on the line with us. Don, we're glad that you're with us this evening. Do you have a question for Kevin?
Yes. I got a question for Mr. Kennedy, about the if a person is been accused of second-degree murder, and just say that person is a law enforcement officer, if he's out on bond, is he allowed to still carry his firearm? And if so, if he was a regular citizen, if he was out on bond, would you still be able to keep your firearm until your trial? How does that work? Because
you're doing good.
The guy that killed George Ford, he lives here. Well, I don't say he lives here in Nashville, but I think he's hanging out here in Nashville until the trial. I guess for safety purposes or whatever. But the guy here, he's out here in the Antioch area, and when I seen the guy's pocket, it seemed like me he still got his firearm.
Okay, Don, it's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it. Let me explain to you. In the state of Tennessee, really under the United States Constitution, we can be charged, we can be accused, we can be arrested, we can be indicted if there's probable cause. We have not been convicted. Now, that means I'm not guilty until I've been proven guilty, or I pled guilty. But there's also a thing called bond. And all these guys, they put them on a $2 million bond, a $1 million bond. There's also conditions of release that go along with that bond. So it's up to the district attorney and the defense attorney. So we already know how they're going to talk. The district attorney is going to say, I want to keep this high bond. I want to keep this high bond. And it's likely this man will be convicted, and we don't want him out on the streets. The defense attorney will come back and say, now listen, Judge, this man's always had a great record up until now. He's been a model citizen. We want the bond lowered here. Well, it's another good time for you to have brought up and said, we want to revoke his ability to carry any firearm as a condition of his release. We also have the ability to say no drug or alcohol use. So you see, there's restrictions that could be placed on that bond. And if a person really wanted to know, it's public record, they can go and look and see if that was a condition of release. And if somebody videoed him with a gun, that's a breach, and that would be a violation of his conditions of release. If you took that to the district attorney filed to revoke his bond because he didn't follow those guidelines. Thank you, Don, for the question. It's a good one.
Absolutely. Great question, Don. We do appreciate you watching tonight and calling in. We're going right back to the lines right now. Rachel is on the line with us. Rachel, good evening. We're glad that you're joining us. Do you have a question for Kevin?
I was wondering if after you've closed on property and then you sell property, how soon can you reinvest that property in this property that you've closed on so that you do not have capital gains?
Okay. Well, now, what I always like to share with everybody, when you're coming up with a tax problem, I like to refer you to a CPA. That's what I personally do, certified public accountant. What I really like is one that had a law degree. But on this particular question, there's a host of things that could come into play, not only just this one particular instance. So I submit to you, I would call them. I would tell them my circumstances. You have done an excellent job because you have identified an issue that has a potential tax liability. And they may give you several options, and there may be some time frames in which there's some gray areas. I had a guy come in to see me, and he was dealing with the IRS, and he was trying to explain to me that they have misinterpreted the law. Well, guess what? The IRS can interpret it any way that they want to because they've got that strength, and then they can bully you. So that's why I would always submit. And hear this again. The law is the law. It's once been said that a good lawyer knows the law and a great lawyer knows how to get around it. You've heard me say many times, that's the law. There's exceptions to it. So I don't like to give an ironclad answer for your particular situation because it may not take in the totality of all your circumstances. I talked to one privately, and because there could be some other issues that would change that. But thank you. That helps a lot. We're coming to tax time. So, one of the guys that went to law school with me, he got rich, and he was from another country. And I said, well, tell me, how did you do that? He said, Kevin, this was 35 years ago. Don't mess with the IRS. So it's pretty clever, but the point was you can't beat them. And quite frankly, we want to pay the tax. And that's what I tell all young business people. Pay the tax. You don't want to overpay. You certainly don't want to underpay, but you want to get the best advice you can. So thank you so much for the question.
All right, we do appreciate that, Rachel. So if you do have a question for Kevin Kennedy, we are asking the expert this evening here on Open Line. The number's right there on your screen, 737-7587. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll get back to your questions right after this. You're watching Open Line.